All right. Ladies and gentlemen, I am deeply sorry about what happened. I don't know what the fuck happened. We had technical difficulties actually. Uh but I
My
guarantee
internet
it,
dipped.
no, I my producer said his internet dip, but I think it was a Sooner fan cutting the fucking power lines. So
Probably, honestly.
honestly, let's be real. Let's be real, dog. They were fucking pissed off that I had them fucking I had them at a lower fucking prediction than what they thought they were gonna be. They thought they were gonna go fucking 12-0 like they always do. But I will say this, guys. Through technical difficulties, this man comes by real fast. That's I'm proud of this guy. He's a fucking workhorse. And yeah, I know you guys can't hear him, but he is an awesome dude. Um, if they want to. But moving on to the show where we left off, we were at Oklahoma State. Okay, we were about to talk about one of the Big 12 schools that has been here for a very long time since the iteration of what the Big 12 is about, and I have a lot of respect for this program. I have a lot of respect for this coach, Mike Gundy, who has a 156-75 overall record in his 18-year career at Oklahoma State. Um, but they went 7-6 last season and 4-5 in the Big 12 last season. But here is their schedule. So, week one, they'll take on Central Arkansas. I mean, that should be an easy dub. But then they're traveling to Tempe, Arizona to take on the mighty Sun Devils of Arizona State. Good God. I think after they lost Jaden Daniels to LSU, they just look like shit. And losing Herm Edwards too, they look like shit. So I don't expect much out of Arizona State this season either. But South Alabama, week 3, and then they start their Big 12 matchups against Iowa State at Ames, and then they'll take on Kansas State at home, and then 8 days later they take on Kansas State's little brother, Kansas, uh, on October 14th, and then they'll travel to Morgantown in West Virginia. I actually have a senior chief that's a West Virginia fan, Senior Davis. Shout out to her. She was she was a sweetheart. Very, very, like me and her would talk about Big 12 football all the time. But anyway, so the Pokes are going to travel to West Virginia. Then they'll take on the newcomer Cincinnati Bearcats. Then they'll host the last Bedlam game against their most hated rival, those goddamn dirty cocksucker Oklahoma Sooners. Okay. And like I said before, the other live stream that all of a sudden got cut down by Oklahoma Sooner fans. Um, you can't spell cocksucker without OU. That's just brutal honesty. Can't spell cocksucker without OU. So that's just it. And then the last two games, or the last two road games, will be at UCF and at Houston. So that's a pretty tough road game stretch there. And then they'll host BYU in their last home game of the season. So, Oklahoma State, what do you want to talk about? Let's talk about your ceiling, your floor, and your predictions. So I have you guys at 11-1 and 8-1 for your ceiling. I think y'all are gonna have a lot of good weapons, a lot of underrated quality weapons. Your transfer ranking is very high from what I thought it was gonna be, 20, even though your recruit record is 54, which is fine. Um, But my floor for you guys is 7-5 with a five and or I'm sorry, with a with a 5-4 record in conference. But my overall prediction, Oklahoma Sooner fans, kiss my fucking ass on this one. 10-2. 10-2 pokes. And they will be singing that waving song. My sister, I've mentioned this on the podcast before. She actually got to visit Oklahoma State when they played against Texas Tech last season. That was a very exciting game for her to go to. And fun fact, which I already talked about this on the pod, but I want to mention it again because I don't think J-Mo knows this story very well. My first college football game was Texas Tech taking on Oklahoma State in Lubbock. I mean, Texas Tech won, but it was a very good game between Mike Leach, late great Mike Leach, and an up and coming Mike Gundy, who had the I'm a man, I'm 40 rant to winning the Big 12 championship. You know, I mean, Oklahoma State has a good coach, and he said this is the healthiest that this Oklahoma State's been in 2 seasons. Big 12, you better watch out for Oklahoma State this season. I guarantee you they're going to bring the heat. But they're definitely going to be over 500 this season. But I have them at a 10-2 record. Next team we're going to talk about is a team that nobody thought but myself was going to be a front runner in the Big 12. Nobody thought, including myself, thought they were going to be in the mix of being in the playoffs. Nobody thought they'd beat Michigan, but the one person that did was me. I proved it on the podcast, and Michigan fans are still bitching about it to this day. Get over it, because I'm talking about the TCU Horned Frogs. Super Frog, hit that horn, baby, as they're coming out to the field. So, fun fact, too. I've never been to a TCU game, but I've been to the stadium. I probably shouldn't say this, but I snuck onto the field. with my aunt, who is a year older than me, or a year and a half older than me, and my grandmother, who is a gypsy. We went to Fort Worth, and we went to go onto the field. And this was when I first fell in love with TCU, when they had Gary Patterson. And I got a poster from TCU. It had this badass linebacker, and this was a good season too. This was back in like when Texas Stadium was. This was the last Texas Stadium season, and I went to go watch the Cowboys play against the Baltimore Ravens. But I fell in love with TCU. I love Fort Worth. I fucking love Fort Worth. And I think me and J-Mo were there in Fort Worth. If I'm not mistaken, he'll probably correct me if I'm wrong. But our flight had to go down because one of the engines fucked up. So we stayed on the naval station in Fort Worth. And then I took my buddy Ryan, which J-Mo knows, Turner. No, not Monroe, but James. He's a big Michigan fan, so I love talking about this story too. So I take them to the stockyards in Fort Worth. And if anybody knows anything about the stockyards, there's Billy Bob's, there's that damn fucking rodeo arena. And I was the only one in boots and jeans and a t-shirt while everybody else was wearing fucking basketball shorts. And I'm sitting there like, what the fuck are y'all doing? And this is I wouldn't say it's my neck of the woods, but it's damn near close to my neck of the woods. So I relate to Fort Worth pretty well. Um, so we go to these bars. Obviously, Ryan doesn't drink. So he's just babysitting everybody. I go out of fucking, I go everywhere. He can't find me. I take a picture on the bull, riding the bull, fucking with a Shiner Bock. At the time, I was drinking a different drink, but we're not gonna say that name because I might be called a hypocrite. But that was like 6 years ago. Grow up. But so we get in this Uber on the way home. I'm already fucked up at this point, and there's this Uber driver who has a fucking smart ass mouth on her, and she is fucking hilarious. I wish I knew her name. She was fucking awesome, but my buddy Ryan fucking absolutely hated her. He absolutely hated her. He was getting irritated because she was talking shit to him. And once you're in Texas, you got to handle yourself very well with thick skin. I, honestly, I don't handle myself very well with thick skin, but New Yorkers are very sensitive, and we know this. So yeah, that ride home was hilarious, and I was fucking drunk. And then the next day, I ended up watching Texas and West Virginia, I believe, and we beat West Virginia. Hook 'em horns. But I had a fun fucking time in Fort Worth the last time I went. TCU fans, buy me a fucking season ticket so I could go to Fort Worth anytime I want. So that way the PMP could cover TCU and talk to Chandler Morris and Sonny Dykes. I love what Sonny Dykes has done thus far at TCU. And I think I've talked enough about loving TCU a little bit. So let's go ahead and talk about their schedule. So this week one matchup is big for many reasons, but one big in particular reason: Deion Sanders' debut to the Power Five, going from Jackson State to the Power Five. He'll be traveling to Fort Worth to take on that rowdy, super hypnotoad Frog Nation TCU Horned Frogs, September 2nd. I am excited to watch this matchup for many reasons. You got Travis Hunter for Colorado. Excuse me. How's TCU going to handle coming back from a 13-2 season? Well, I think they're still going to be good. I just don't think they'll be as good as last season because they lost a lot. But they still have a lot of talent in Jared Wiley and Tay Barber. Chandler Morris, I think he's a fucking phenomenal athlete. So, and he was actually the starter last season. So I can't wait to see what happens with TCU. Then they'll play Nicholls State at home, and then they have their first Big 12 matchup against Houston at Houston. And then September 23rd, they will take on the SMU Mustangs at home. So this is a big rivalry, the Iron Skillet. So for those outside of Texas, this is a big rivalry here. The Iron Skillet, I think personally, the Iron Skillet should be in the Big 12. Like SMU should join the Big 12. I don't know why it's taking so long for SMU to be in the Big 12. I guess they're waiting on Oklahoma and Texas to leave. I don't know. I don't get it, but SMU needs to join the Big 12 to have that rivalry sanctioned in the Big 12. And then after the Iron Skillet matchup, they'll take on West Virginia at home, and then they'll take on Iowa State on the road, and then they'll be headed back home against BYU. Then they'll be at Manhattan to take on the Kansas State Wildcats. That might be the biggest game of the year for TCU, as far as being on the road. And then they'll have another road game November 2nd to take on Texas Tech. Here's why I say Kansas State's going to be a bigger game for TCU because they have a bigger gap for the Texas game compared to the Kansas State game. They have a 9-game stretch to prepare for Steve Sarkisian and that Texas offense and the Texas defense on November 11th. And then November 18th, the Baylor Bears. That's another rivalry that's not talked about. And then they'll finish off the season at Norman, Oklahoma to take on the Oklahoma Sooners. All right? So, I have a pretty big gap here for their ceiling floor. But their prediction, I think they'll like my prediction. They have a 20th ranked recruiting class and a 19th ranked transfer class. So, TCU is only getting better at this point. So, let's take a look at their ceiling, floor, and prediction here. So, for my ceiling, I got them at a 12-0 and 9-0. So, they're going to have a breakout year again as far as my ceiling's concerned. My floor is 5-7 with a 4-5 conference record. Why 5-7? Well, you're bringing in new teams and you have lost a lot of guys. But there's a lot of potential in this team. So that's why I'm giving them a 9-3 record with a 6-3 conference record. Losing to Kansas State, Texas Tech, Texas Tech and Texas. I think they'll beat Oklahoma at Oklahoma. So, yeah, I have a lot of faith in TCU. In all honesty, can the TCU just replace Texas A&M in the SEC? I think they'd have a better benefit of being in the SEC if we just swap TCU and Texas A&M. Texas A&M don't want to be in there anyway, from what I've heard. But you know what? Fuck it. TCU can run the Big 12 with Oklahoma State and Texas Tech. And possibly UCF. But next team I'm going to talk about. Here we go. This team I am excited about. I'm not drinking the Kool-Aid just yet, but I'm damn near close. I have had my heart broken since the 2009-2010 season when we lost the national goddamn championship, when we could have beat Nick Saban in Alabama that year with Colt McCoy if he didn't get injured. That's still a controversy, by the way. I'm on the fence of, yeah, we would win that. Texas fight. The Longhorns. They are, without a shadow of a doubt, one of the most known programs in the history of college football. They are the biggest blue blood in Texas. If you want to argue with me on that, Texas A&M, just look at the series record. Because y'all suck. So, with that being said, I stayed up watching Vince Young run in the end zone against USC. I saw the devastating blow when Michael Crabtree ran into the end zone. I have been through the highs and the very lows of Texas football. There have been times where I would not watch the game because of the fact that my season's done. That's how frustrating. 2021, that was the year that I fucking just rage quit. When we first lost to Kansas, with Charlie Strong as the head coach, I knew he was going to be fired, and I wanted him gone to begin with. So he went. Tom Herman comes in. Has a decent season. And then he has that magical season where we have a 10-win season, beating Georgia The last time we played Georgia, we beat Georgia, and Georgia fans can argue all they want about having to sit starters and this and this and that when we beat the shit out of you in the Sugar Bowl. So just take that L. Oh, we had starters prepare for the... Shut the fuck up. Just fucking go. And then there's the mediocre 2019 season. And then there's a 2020 season where we shot ourselves in the foot too many times. And then 2021, that's where I blew my fucking gasket. And then this last season, there's a glimmer of hope. That Steve Sarkisian, who is 13-12 now, going into his third season. Everybody's saying he's on the hot seat. He's not. We have a bright future with a bright quarterback, Quinn Ewers. Now, what the media is trying to spin with this program right now, after watching the spring game, after getting the number one recruit out of the 2023 recruiting cycle. Well, there's going to be quarterback controversy going on here. I'm ESPN. I think I know what I'm talking. Shut the fuck up. Even Kirk Herbstreit, a guy that I actually like, has immense amount of respect towards Quinn Ewers and fucking Malik Murphy and Arch Manning. And all the slander about Arch Manning sucking, y'all are just mad because y'all didn't get the commit. And that the Manning family wanted him to go to Texas. And he wanted to go to Texas, more importantly. So, with that being said, and I have faith that Arch Manning's going to stay with Texas because of the simple fact that Archie, that he's the one pulling all the strings here. He is forcing this kid to not collect a single dime off of his NIL deal, which I think is fucking smart, which I think every parent should do. That's a fucking lesson for all kids, or for all parents dealing with kids with NIL money. He's more than likely not going to allow this kid to fucking transfer. And the kid himself is dedicated to fucking sit behind a year to just learn from Quinn Ewers and learn from Malik Murphy. Malik Murphy has been injured. He's injury prone. So who's the best option? Quinn Ewers. Yeah, after the Alabama game, he hasn't been the same. But the motherfucker could sling it. And he took time this offseason to take care of his body, which I need to. I have no room to talk. I'm on the verge of being 200 pounds with a fucking beer belly. Okay? But this guy, Quinn Ewers, I think he's going to light the fucking scoreboard up this season. You know, and be prepared to hear that Texas fight every fucking 5 minutes. Because the defense is going to be tougher. Jalen Ford should have been the Big 12 fucking Defensive Player of the Year, coming back as a top 2 linebacker. A top 2 linebacker in the country, by the way. The motherfucker is amazing. We are losing Demo, which I'm glad he's a Cowboy. But we are bringing in some young blood that wants to fucking play. We are bringing in Colton Vasek, which I am super excited about this kid. I'm excited about Malik Muhammad. I'm excited about all these kids that are coming in the 2023 cycle. I mean, look at our fucking stats. Our recruit ranking is third in the country. Third, behind Alabama and Georgia. Yeah, Oklahoma's behind us, but we have fucking talent. And I think Sark could do it this year. It's not, I'm drinking the Kool-Aid. I believe in this team. I believe that Texas can fucking Get the job done and not fucking choke. But with that being said, I have to talk about my schedule. I have to talk about the schedule. And I'm already pissed off already. Because I'm already in fucking game mode. When I say when I'm pissed off, I'm talking about the game. I'm talking about our players. I'm talking about getting ready for the motherfucking moment. I want to hear Coach Steve Sarkisian in the locker room one day do a Coach JB. It smells like motherfucking pussy out there, doesn't it? So that's what I want to see out of Texas. I want to see a fucking fired up, swagger Texas Longhorn team. So they have a tough matchup week 1. That's Rice. That's going to be a tough 60-3 win. Let's be honest. Okay, maybe I'm being over dramatic about the score, but Rice isn't that good. Then we go on to Tuscaloosa to take on Alabama. That's a hit or miss this season because Alabama's going through a quarterback controversy. They just got Notre Dame's quarterback, so we'll see what happens there. Then we have Wyoming traveling to Austin. That's going to be an interesting matchup. And then after that, Texas travels to Baylor to take on the Baylor Bears, which, like I said, Baylor could be a hit or miss team. Then we have one home game before the big game against Kansas, which I think playing Kansas early is a good thing. And then October 7th against Oklahoma in the Red River shootout or Red River rivalry. I already hyped it up earlier. I don't need to hype it up again. I think this is going to be one of the biggest games of the year for Texas. And can they stay consistent against Oklahoma? This season's all about consistency. That's all it is. And then they have a bye week. Then they take on Houston at Houston. Then they'll play against BYU at home. And then on the November stretch, they have Kansas State. Then they take on TCU at Fort Worth. So that's going to be a tough one. Then they travel to Iowa State at Ames. And then they finish off the season at home against Texas Tech. All right. So, Longhorn fans, are you ready? Because I am about to disclose my ceiling, my floor, and my expectations. In Texas, do not fuck this season up like you did last season. So, my ceiling, 12-0 with a 9-0 record. That's the ceiling I got, which is fair. Everybody's thinking that. Floor, 8-4 with a 6-3 conference record. Now, that's a pretty high floor, but that's a expected floor. If we go below that floor, there's something wrong with the coaching staff. Now, my actual predictions. Are you ready? Are you ready? Y'all are probably not going to like this because we have one loss. And that one loss is to Alabama. I think it's going to be a good game. I truly think it will be a good game, but I think their defense is going to tighten up. Their offense is going to be a little bit different than last season, especially with Bryce Young being gone. I think Texas is going to go 11-1 with a 9-0 conference record. And it's gonna be hard. Like it's hard to not drink this Kool-Aid this year. It's really not that, or it's really hard not to fucking drink the Kool-Aid this season. It's really hard. Like I am really trying not to drink this Kool-Aid, but it appeared I think I drank the Kool-Aid. I think so. Because Texas is 11-1 in my overall prediction. My ceiling 12-0. My floor 8-4. So my only concern is Alabama, and can we stay consistent? Consistency has been the killer of Texas in the last decade and a half almost. So people used to fear Texas. Like Colorado used to fear Texas. They still do. Kansas used to fear us. Now they're brave enough to go on Twitter and say, "Oh, we'll just beat y'all again after we whip their ass." And I really do have a good feeling about this season. I actually do. And once I have a really good feeling about a season, I haven't felt this good about a season since that tremendous 2018 season. I haven't had a good feeling since the 2009 season or the 2005 season about Texas. I have a fucking gift on how I feel about Texas. And I'm brutally honest. As you've seen on my videos. As you've seen on my last live stream. That was like supposed to be 15 minutes after 15 minutes before this one. But yeah, I am truly excited about Texas this season. But we're going to move on to a team that really surprised everybody last season. I said watch out for this team too. And I'm still going to say it. Last year was the first time they ever beat Texas and Oklahoma on the same schedule. That is beyond wild. Joey McGuire, second season as the Texas Tech Red Raiders coach. Now, I have a love-hate relationship with Texas Tech. It's a love that I love the fans. I love the atmosphere of Texas Tech, the matadors of Texas Tech, the history behind Mike Leach, and also in the magical 11-2 team that Texas Tech had, But here's where my hate goes in. The way they let Mike Leach go was devastating to college football and to Texas Tech football. So, with Joey McGuire being there, I think this is a step in the right direction as far as Texas Tech. And they did a really good gesture when Mike Leach died. They did the air raid offense and they waited until the ball or the time clock expired for the play clock expired. But yeah, I have a hate-love relationship with Texas Tech. It's like one of those toxic girlfriends, You want to love her, but you want to hate her. So you hate fuck her and then you love her. But you want to love her, but you love fuck her and then you hate her all of a sudden. Like, it's like one of those relationships, And I'm not one to talk about relationships. I'm talking about past experiences from somebody else, But the Texas Tech Red Raiders with Joey McGuire, this is a match made in heaven for me. I absolutely love Texas Tech with Joey McGuire. So, here's what I got to say about Texas Tech this season. With this schedule, it looks very menacing at first until you start looking at where the locations are. Like Oregon. You would think that would be a fucking blowout against Oregon. Well, they would lose to Oregon in a blowout. Because I thought at first I saw Autzen Stadium. No, they're playing in Lubbock. Where the tortillas fly, the guns sling, the cactus are being ate by the people. So with Texas Tech, they're starting off at Wyoming. They're one of the two teams that are going to be on the road week 1. Week 2, they take on a big opponent in Oregon. Week 3, they'll be taking on Tarleton State. Week 4, they'll be heading over to Morgantown, West Virginia. Week 5, they'll be taking on Houston on September 30th. Then they'll travel to Waco to take on Baylor on October 7th. Then they'll play at home against Kansas State. This could be a big beneficial game for Texas Tech. And then October 21st, they will be playing at BYU. That's another tough environment. And then they will play against TCU November the 2nd. So they have a while to prepare for TCU. And then they have a 9-game stretch to take on Kansas at Lawrence, Kansas. And then November 18th, they take on UCF. And then their final game of the year, they will take on Texas in the 40 acres at DKR. I'm excited about that game. Texas Tech fans, you're either going to love what I have to say or you're going to hate what I got to say. Like I said, it's a love-hate relationship between us. So here's my ceiling, my floor, and my prediction. My ceiling for Texas Tech will be 10-2 and 8-1. Who's the only team they're going to lose to in the Big 12? Well, that's going to be Texas, of course. And then I have them losing to Oregon as well. So 10-2 and an 8-1 record, that's really good. They haven't had a 10-win season in a long time. Their floor, pretty big gap. 4-8 with a 2-6 record or 3-6 record. I could see a big hole here. But I doubt that they will get to that point. But my prediction is 8-4 with a 6-3 record. I do have them losing to Oregon. I do have them losing to Texas, but I also have them losing to Kansas State and UCF. I think Texas Tech's going to be a good ball club this season and a ball club to watch out for. So, with that being said, I am excited. I'm excited for that concludes the Texas teams anyway. I'm excited for all the Texas teams in the Big 12. And Texas Tech being one of them, they're going to be surprising this year to a lot of people. And I wouldn't be surprised one damn bit if they beat Oregon. I wouldn't. I might actually change my pick once it comes down to it. But I just dropped my beer. But anyway. Oh yeah. So we're going to talk about the next team. The one team left that has not ever been into the Big 12. They've gotten a lot of hype. They are the self-proclaimed 2017 national champions. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome the University of Central Florida, the UCF Knights. UCF now. They, I tell you what, man, they are something special. Hang All right, folks, pause real quick. I will be right back. I'll be right back. All right, I'm back. Ready? Yeah. Hey, later. All right, ladies and gentlemen, sorry for the interruption. I am back, and we're still talking about UCF. So, Gus Malzahn, he is a brilliant mind. He's in his third season, 18-9 record with the UCF Golden Knights. Or actually the UCF Knights now. They used to be called Golden Knights, but they went 9-5 and 6-2 last season. They actually beat Tulane last season, but lost to Tulane in the conference championship. I tell you what, this UCF team is very, very underrated, and they're being underestimated this season by a lot of so-called experts. So let's talk about their schedule real quick. Week 1, we have Kent State going into Orlando August 31st. And then week 2 is a big matchup. They had an awesome matchup last season, or the season before, I believe, against Boise State. They'll be taking on Boise State in Idaho, so that's going to be a tough matchup for them. Then they'll play at home against Villanova. And then on the 23rd of September, they'll be traveling to Manhattan, Kansas to take on Kansas State. September 30th, they'll be taking on Baylor at home. And then they'll have a 2 road game stretch to travel to Kansas, have a bye week, and then they'll take on Oklahoma afterwards. And then on the 28th, they will be at home taking on the West Virginia Mountaineers. And then November 4th, they'll be taking on their rivals from the American Conference, the Cincinnati Bearcats, at Cincinnati. Then they'll play at home against Oklahoma State. Then they'll travel to Lubbock to take on the Texas Tech Red Raiders. And then they'll be at home for their last game of the season to take on Houston. I love this schedule. It's a smooth schedule with some pretty good programs right there. It's a smooth schedule. I like it. But let's go ahead and talk about their recruit ranking and transfer ranking. Their recruit ranking is at 50, and their transfer ranking is at 35. I like their chances here in the Big 12. I really do. And then let's talk about their ceiling, floor, and prediction, shall we? UCF fans, I fucking love UCF. Okay. I have high hopes for these guys. But for their first season, it's going to be a comfortable season. They're going to have some losses. They're going to have some comfortable losses here. So let's go ahead and talk about it. My ceiling, they're going to have an 8-4 overall record with a 5-4 conference record. My floor for them, though, is a 6-6 and a 4-5 conference record. But my overall is an 8-4. So an 8-4 with a 6-3 conference record. So I think they're going to win more games in the conference than my ceiling. So I really do think that UCF's going to bring in the heat this season for the Golden Knight or for the Knights. So I am really excited to see what UCF can do in the Big 12, but we shall see what happens. But last but certainly not least, finally, we can get done with this live stream. All right. So this team last season, they have a guy named Neil Brown. He's in his 5th season. He might be on the hot seat. I don't know what West Virginia likes. He's the guy that came in after Dana Holgerson left for Houston. So Neil Brown in the West Virginia Mountaineers. His overall record is a 22-25 overall record at West Virginia. So he's won some games and lost some games. But it's been mediocre at best for West Virginia. His last record last year was 5-7 with a 3-6 conference record. So let's see their freaking schedule. West Virginia, the Mountaineers, they will be traveling to Penn State week 1 to take on the Nittany Lions, which I think Penn State's going to be a force to be reckoned with, much like Arkansas. So that's going to be a tough game to pick for them. And then they'll take on Duquesne. I hope that's how you pronounce it. At home. And then week 3, they'll take on Pittsburgh at home, which that's a backyard brawl rivalry, which they're already going at it on Twitter, which I love. Week 4, Texas Tech at West Virginia. At West Virginia. And then week 5 and week 6, they'll be traveling all around Texas to take on TCU. And then they'll have a bye week and have an away game against Houston. And then they'll have a 9-game stretch to take on Oklahoma State at home. So that's a big win for them. Then they have to travel to the Bounce House to take on UCF. And then they'll play BYU at home, and then they'll travel to Norman, Oklahoma to take on Oklahoma. Had their last game of the season to take on former Big East competitor Cincinnati. And then last but certainly not least, their last game of the season will be at Baylor. Now, Mountaineers fans are probably going to hate me for this one too. I did not think about this. Their recruit ranking is 48, but their transfer ranking is 28. So I might be wrong at the end of the day. Maybe the ceiling will be their record. But let's take a look at their ceiling, floor, and prediction. My ceiling for this team is 7-5 with a 4-5 record. I think they're going to have a lot of trouble in the Big 12. I think they're going to have trouble with Penn State. But I don't have them losing on my ceiling against Penn State, which is odd. But my floor, I have them losing a lot. 10-2 with a 1-8 conference record. Jeez Louise, man. And then probably their one conference win will probably be against maybe Houston, maybe Baylor. I don't know. I haven't quite decided. But their prediction will be 4-8 with a 2-7 conference record. So I think they're going to struggle this season, and I think Neil Brown's gone after this season. for those Mountaineer fans, I really do think that they will fire Neil Brown after this season. Maybe midway through the season. Y'all know how I feel about mid-season fucking firings, but it's probably long overdue anyway. But West Virginia fans, I hope you can forgive me because that's your overall record, in my opinion. And that, my friends, concludes the PMP's 2023 Big 12 preview. I want to thank all of the Big 12 conference fan base out there and everybody that has supported. We just hit our 50th subscriber. Congratulations to us. We hope to get more than 50. I want to get more than just 50. I want to get to like 500 at the end of the season. I don't know how possible that is, but I want 50 or I want 500. Fuck it. But we could definitely do it. It's a challenge, but we'll do it. But yeah, I am just so glad we got a chance to talk about the Big 12 so early. But next week we'll talk about the Big 10 conference. And then I believe that's the Conference USA afterwards. So we're gonna try to do 2 conferences a week. So that way we can knock it out of the park and we can bring in Caleb to talk about NFL. Or at least until DeAndre Hopkins fucking gets to it or is selected to a team. But anyway, I want to thank JMO for putting in the hard work and dedication for what he does for this podcast, the sacrifice that he does for this podcast. Jesus Christ, without him, I wouldn't have had this fucking setup, honestly. But thank you, JMO, for everything that you do, and good luck to you this season or in your years in Reno. It's school. I am excited about this look for the PMP. I'm excited to see what happens. And NFL is going to get interesting. Like, here before too long, me and Caleb are going to have our predictions on who's going to be what in the AFC or NFC and have an early Super Bowl prediction. So that won't happen until after I'm done with the conferences, or at least until DeAndre Hopkins gets picked up. Watch, 5 days later he gets picked up. That's usually how it happens. But anywho, I want to thank everybody that supports this channel and really supports the Pigskin Mafia podcast. I do this for a reason, for the love of football, for the love of the game. And I just want to show my gratitude to the sport and how I feel about certain topics. I want to show my gratitude or my displeasure to. So with that being said, we are the best podcast on fucking YouTube, soon to be whatever the fuck I choose it to be. We are the PMP. Good night and mwah, and good night. Bang. Cue it.
I've been changing up the crib every quarter. I get lost on my way back from the kitchen, cause I don't know which way I'm going in the Carter. I told her, woosah, woosah. Utah, jazzed off a few shots and woosah. Yeah, you got a woosah. When I do a talk, it's set to the moon top. I know what I want, get no fuss what you want. Woosah, woosah, fuck the hoopla. I saw what I saw, fuck what you saw. I've been on my day to day. Disappear like David Blaine. I'm talking woosah.